Hi, Anne Claire. How are you today?
Hey, Meg, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you? What's new in your life?
As you can see, I am in New York City, house sitting, which is
Mhm.
super nice. Been here for a few days, but the big update is that I have a new boyfriend. And he's here with me, but he's not making a video appearance yet. But what I do have to say is that we've been dating for 2 months. And this is the person from high school that I talked about on my podcast.
And I'm pretty sure we talked about this mister once, and then we took it out of the recording because we were not sure about him yet, which is super cute.
Oh, yes, that's so true. So, yes, it's been really fun. I'm excited, really happy. And it's time that I share with the YouTubers my life because they've been following the dating chronicles here and there.
Yes, we have. So, everyone, celebration for Meg. And I'm happy that you found someone that makes you happy.
Yes, it's been really nice. And we've known each other for 13 years, which is kind of cute. Is that longer than you and Steven? No, I'm just kidding.
It is because I met Steven in 2012. So, only been soon 11 years. So,
Look at that. No, it's pretty impressive. But yeah, there was no communication for 13 years.
But there was a date a long time ago, right?
Yes. So this is how it happened. So when we were kids in high school, we went on a few dates. I mainly remember one. And then there was apparently like a mini golf date and maybe another date. And then and then we went off to college.
Oh, yeah.
And then life happened. And then we both moved home. I guess he moved home before I did, but I moved home and then we met on Hinge. So that's what happened. So it's kind of cool.
It is. I mean, if I could, I would ask a million questions, but one, we might get into, too much information, like not ready to share everything yet on the public sphere. And also, we promised we would try to actually record.
I know. The recovery content needs to happen today.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Because this is kind of like a very timely discussion in terms of calendars, because someone was curious to hear about our experiences of basically Christmas and New Year celebrations with an eating disorder and how that changed since. So let's make people feel seen and give them hope.
So what was your Christmas experience like, Anne Claire?
So I was good at pretending that everything was completely fine. Well, good. I don't know if I was good, but I definitely pretended like everything was fine. And I was hyper focused and involved around food. So I remember my maybe one or two worst Christmases were the ones where I helped out the most because they were celebrated at home at my parents', and I would be there and help out and prepare food and prepare desserts and make a super beautiful table and spend hours thinking about like the food and the planning and the thing and the whatever. Definitely looking, quote unquote, looking fine, as in like acting like bubbly and happy and everything, totally feeling dead inside and and scared and not well and not happy. So that was not fun, but that's also because I didn't tell anyone about my eating disorder until basically I was recovered, with the exception of very, very few humans who were not there. And I didn't feel like it was a safe space for me to sort of announce things or talk about things. So it was pretty grim, I'm not going to lie, especially because I always felt like I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to, I have to, I should be. All of that self-talk, very loud. So that was me. How are you?
I don't remember a ton of how I was externally, but I just remember internally feeling extremely like out of control during
Mm.
the holidays. Like, you know, how I just would deprive myself of food in general and the foods I loved all year. And then the holidays, my brain was like, it's the holidays, live a little. But my eating disorder was like, don't. And so there was that huge internal battle. And I would end up going to these holiday parties and feel completely out of control around food to the point where I would eat way past my fullness, right? So I would end up feeling really gross and like uncomfortable with a lot of guilt and shame. And I just remember feeling like it just ruined everything because physically, I was very uncomfortable throughout the holidays. Mentally, I was uncomfortable, but nobody around me probably could know, but I don't know for sure. But
Mm.
it just felt like the food guilt was out of control. And yeah, there's a lot.
That sounds crap. I
It
mean,
was crap. It was crap. I mean, but I think that's how it is when you end up being completely restrained throughout your life. And then you end up giving yourself that fleeting opportunity to let yourself eat the food that you want. Sometimes you just have obviously no control around it because
mhm.
you feel deprived. Right. So that was my experience. And I always, of course, then would get really anxious about whether or not I gained weight and all of that. So there was compounding emotions after the fact. It was tough.
Yeah. I feel like the after was, I don't know if it was as bad or worse, but it just feels like I remember my internal experience so much and like the loud, like horrible, like conflicting thoughts in the moment. Like I was not present or barely, right? Because we're like in our heads and like having conversations with ourselves basically and criticizing everything that's going on and asking ourselves questions about how do I look like? Like, did I eat okay? Did I eat too much? Oh my God, what is this person thinking of me? I remember like being so disconnected from what was going on. And then after the fact, of course, judging myself for being so disconnected from the moment. So it's just like a layering, like shame, bullying, blaming, judging. It's just like a never ending pile for 2 weeks because it feels like it's not just like because I celebrate Christmas, it would be like Christmas and then this weird week, you know, that week between Christmas and New
Yeah.
Year would drive me
Purgatory.
completely. And then New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and like
Well, I had a weird situation too, because my whole family is born in January. So we go from holiday season to birthday season. So if we're talking about a dieter's nightmare, this is it, because you go from going to holiday party after holiday party to celebration, and then you have that weird week, and then it turns into birthday cake restaurants, family dinners for everybody in the family in January. Like me, my sister, my mom, and dad are all born between the 9th and the 28th of January. So it was
wow.
just like, for me, I could not, it just felt like so much. And it caused a lot of anxiety because it was just, there was always these moments where I felt like I was getting off track with my restriction, essentially. So it was really hard.
Yeah. Hmm. Now I remember that there's like this feeling that I used to kind of still have, not a disordered thing, but this, these high pressure days, the days where you're supposed to be happy, the days where you're supposed to celebrate, the days where
Yeah.
you're supposed to, that still freaks me out a bit, if I'm completely honest, because it's kind of like my birthday. I think part of it, and I remember processing that a lot in therapy years ago, being like, I don't like these days. And then I realized that part of that was because I felt like I was supposed to perform even more on those days. I was supposed to forget about my entire human experience on those days and ignore the fact that maybe I feel also sad and maybe I'll feel also stressed. And like those parts of me were unacceptable internally, like privately, but also publicly. And I feel like that's unfortunately true to an extent. Like it's one of those things, right? It's not just in our heads. People do not want to see sometimes your sadness or your distress. And it's hard to sort of find a way to honor that part of you when you know that that's maybe not going to be received in the best way. So that was added to the mix. And you just reminded me of that when you talked about birthdays. So
yeah, the high pressure, I totally relate to that. Thankfully, as I've moved forward in life, I've set the bar really low for all of those days.
Me too. I do the same thing.
I know that okay, well, I set the bar. Basically, I don't expect this is sad. I don't expect anybody to do anything for me on those days. So if I want to do something, I will do it myself or I won't do anything. And I keep it very low. And same with holidays, I just expect basically to just go with the flow. The days don't have to be perfect. I don't have these high standards and expectations. Just take it as it comes. And it's so much better. It's just like food. You just have to treat it like a normal day of eating, right? And in this case, a normal day, period.
That's so interesting because I remember, I'm still a bit like that, but I remember that being more true a bit, maybe a few years back. Because I used to do that so much that my therapist called me out and was like, girl, you have the right to have hopes. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And I'm not saying that's what you do. It's just, I remember being called out on it and realizing it's not that I can't have hopes and expectations. It's that I can't be attached to them.
Yes. Oh, so good.
And I'm responsible for my own happiness as well. It's not just on others. So there are things that I might want and hope, and I can show up for myself and make that happen. I don't have to count on someone else to do it. And there are things that I can hope and expect, especially if I've expressed, a need or a wish or a want, but I can't be attached to the outcome.
First of all, you're expressing this with the right word, which is the detachment word. And that's been the huge shift for me as well. When I was younger, I'd get attached to, this has to be the best Christmas ever. This has to be the best holidays. And then when it wasn't, you're bummed out because you put all of your hope into this one day. But if you're detached from the outcome, it can be more of a peaceful experience.
Yeah. And it's not done in a I don't care way. It's done in a I care, but I'm not attached way. It took me a little while to figure out. But all that to say, I know that the person who asked us to sort of talk about our Christmas experience sort of wanted to feel seen. And I just wanted people to hear that we were in bad spots. And we're not going to go in detail because it wouldn't be helpful for you to hear specific things that are maybe triggering or give your eating disorder ideas or whatnot. But there is hope, and there are versions of those days and those big celebrations that are so much happier. And you can get to a place when you're much more present, where food is a source of joy and pleasure, and it's neutral, and you get to be with the people and enjoy, the celebrations as a whole. Yeah.
I think that's important to remind everyone is everything we shared today, that's not our experience anymore. Right. We didn't even talk about what our Christmases are like now, but I can tell you right now, there's no more food guilt. There's a lot of self-compassion. There's a lot of food freedom. It's more relaxed. We're more present, right? I know, I'm sure you experience
the opposite.
That as well.
Presence, peace, calm. I feel relaxed. I have hopes and expectations, but I'm not attached to them. It's very human and it is accessible. It does require some work. And I do want people to know that if they feel triggered or that this is particularly hard, this is real and you can do something about it. absolutely shameless plug. It's still time to join us for our winter reset. It's completely free. We have started a few weeks back, but you can still join us and catch up on workshops that we have recorded on boundaries, on how to set up a plan around those days to care for yourself, to practice self-care and self-compassion, to connect to the bigger picture and all that. So give yourself a real chance to experience something nice and don't hesitate to say no.
Absolutely. And I do think this group this year is so engaged inside the Facebook group. So it's been really cool to see all the new folks and all of the current members of the collective kind of mesh. And that's been really exciting. So anyway, I hope you guys can join the last half of that. We would love to have you all. And speaking of which, you and I have to head off because we're doing one of those workshops now. So
thank you, Meg. As always, you're freaking awesome. And I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. Love you. I'll see you soon.
Bye.